and welcome to ongoing election coverage by Town Meeting Television. This is one of many forums we are bringing you in advance of local elections and town meeting on the first Tuesday in March 1st, 2022. Town meeting is traditionally where voters weigh in on local government representation, municipal budgets, school budgets, and local ballot items. All candidates on the ballot are invited to participate in Town Meeting Television election forums. Town Meeting TV election forums introduce you to community decision makers and connect you with the issues that shape your local community. If you're watching this live, we welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. You can watch Town Meeting Television on Comcast Channel 1087, Burlington Telecom Channels 17 and 217, as well as online at Town Meeting TV's YouTube page. My name is Elaine Haney, and tonight we are having a candidate forum with the candidates for the Burlington City Council, Ward 7. I'm joined by the incumbent, Ali Jang, and two opponents, Alexander Smith, running as a Democrat and a Republican, and Olivia Taylor as a progressive. We're going to start the evening with an opening statement of 1 minute from each candidate. And I understand that we already have callers with questions. So after we have each candidate do their opening statement, we'll go to the phone. And we will take questions throughout as well from the audience. So let's start with Ali Jang as the incumbent. Could you please give us your opening statement?
Thank you so much, CCTV, for having us, bringing us together, and for making sure that democracy will work. We really appreciate what you do. My name is Ali Jang, the only truly independent and pragmatic city councillor in this great city of Burlington. It has been an opportunity of a lifetime to serve my new North End neighborhood in my capacity as a city councillor. I would be honored to continue in this role, and I'm announcing that I would seek your vote on town meeting day. Please vote Ali Jang. Visit my website, www.alijangvt.com. I would be honored to continue in this role. With your continued support and trust, I will serve you to the best of my ability while trying to balance the needs of all of my constituents. Since 2017, I have changed the way in which a leader should conduct business by extending the role of a city council beyond just votes to real action in my neighborhood. I have worked tirelessly to strengthen the ties of my neighborhood by connecting with my neighbors frequently and regularly about city issues. I'm truly an independent. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to Alec for your opening statement. Alec, are you there?
I think we might have lost him.
Let's move on to Olivia, and hopefully Alec will be able to fix his tech issues. It's been a rough night so far. Go ahead, Olivia.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name's Olivia Taylor. I use she, her pronouns, and I live on Ethan Allen Parkway. I'm the only woman and only renter running for a position of city councilor in Ward 7. In my campaign for city council, I am focusing on the issues that unify the residents of Ward 7, increased access to affordable housing, building community, and supporting local businesses. I am a different and unique choice because I have experience in policy, business development, and conflict resolution. I believe the best political decisions are made when we focus on what unites us instead of what divides us. I believe the opinions and desires of Ward 7 residents and ultimately improving our community is more important than party politics. As Ward 7 City Councilor, you have my commitment that I will focus my candidacy on the issues that bring us together, not wedge us apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. And Alec, are you ready to give your opening statement?
I am, thank you. I apologize for the technology difficulties in Wi-Fi, so thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Alexander Smith, and I'm running for city council because I see a city that is in crisis, and it's in crisis for affordability, schools, as well as a dysfunctional and fractured council, as well as public safety, which is the #1 thing, and I think that I can help. Now, what would be different about me is that I would have voted to raise the police cap right when the vote was happening. I would not have created a cloud of confusion over the appointment of John Murad. In addition, my vision for the city is for people to have confidence in the city council and show respect, accountability, and partnership, something that I strive for every day.
Thank you very much, Alec. Okay, we are going to go to the phones. Would the first caller come on down and please tell us your name and please address your question to all of our candidates.
Well, thank you. This is Jim Hallway. Thank you for having this opportunity to check with the candidates, get to know them a little bit better. My question is for all of the candidates. I know Ali's extensive community service record, and I know Olivia has begun some great community service through the NPA and so on. So I'd particularly like to hear from Alec, but I would like to hear from all three what community service qualifies you to be a good city councilor, as I'm sure any one of you would be. Thank you. I'll take my answers offline.
Thank you very much. I'll give each of you 2 minutes to respond to the question, and I have this 30-second sign that I'm going to hold up to let you know when you're running out of time. Alec, why don't you go first?
I think community service is really important, and that doesn't mean that you have to participate in formal programs. You can participate by helping out your neighbors whenever they're in need, whether that's helping them repair an appliance or shovel their driveway, which I do to try to teach my young children about respect for your neighbors. And as far as community service goes, in my work for the manufacturing facility that I manage, we do participate in community service up in that area where we pick up litter, cigarette butts, and such from the industrial park that we're in, which is something that we want to do not only as a partner with the community, but individually, because that is an effect direct to the environment from a lot of the things that are in those. So, it's more than just, reaching out, and it's really partnering with the people in your community. And back a long time ago, I did do some volunteer work because my parents pushed me to do that. We would serve food at a local soup kitchen. I think that was important to be able to partner with your community. So that's really what I feel like it's about. It's not necessarily formal programs. My company does have a program for community outreach called the Murray Community Outreach, and I encourage people to do that through my work as a manager. We give paid time off for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Alec. Olivia, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much for that question. I have spent my whole adult life doing community service in a variety of ways. As mentioned, I'm on the Wards 4 and 7 NPA steering committee. I also serve on the Burlington Housing Board. I am a member of the Vermont State Tennis League, and I also am on the Junior League of Champlain Valley, where we do a bunch of community service work, but most notably, we run the diaper bank in Vermont, which actually serves 13 of 14 districts in all of Vermont, providing diapers for people throughout our state. I don't know if anyone knows this, but there is no state or federal funding that goes toward families having access to diapers, and Junior League is really trying to change that. I also studied policy in school, and I interned for Representative Molly Burke from Brattleboro when I was an undergrad. I then was hired as the energy and climate change intern for the Agency of Transportation. After that internship with her, this past fall, I was accepted into Emily's List Ignite Change Fellowship, which is a 9-week virtual workshop to teach Democratic pro-choice women how to run for office. So I really feel like I have the commitment to community service, and I go out of my way every day to add more activities and more ways for me to get involved with my community. Thank you.
And Ali.
Thank you. And I have to say, Olivia, this is just very impressive to hear you, to hear all of this. This is amazing. That's what that's what this country and this community actually needs. People who step up and take care of the city, not only on city council votes. I'm just impressive. Yes, and as you know, yes, as city councilor, basically, we do not even know the amount of time that we spend in boards and commissions. I'm also a board member at CVOO, right? And prior to that, I created what we call the Burlington School District Parent University, right? And currently, I'm the co-founder of the Vermont New American Advisory Council. Basically, I work every single day. This is not only even me. My wife, for example, she is the co-leader at Hunter Middle School PTO. She steps up and to take care. She's also the assistant at CP Smith Elementary. In order for us, our children to know, even though we are busy, what we want to teach them is to give back to this community that gave us so much. Community service is what brought me to city council. And I'm just impressive again, Olivia. Thank you again for stepping up to in the next level of taking care of this beautiful community. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, can you tell us if there's another caller on the line?
Yes, there is. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Tell
Hi,
us your name
I'd like
and
all
direct your
three
question to
candidates.
all the candidates.
Okay. Hi, I'd like all three candidates to give their assessment on Burlington's efforts of racial justice and what, if anything, they would do differently.
What is your name, caller?
My name is Ken.
Thank you. Okay, we will start this one with Olivia.
That sounds great. So I currently work in business development service, and what I would really like to see as a way to really address racial justice is to have Burlington employ a business development specialist who would provide support to Black, Indigenous, people of color, and women-owned businesses. There's so many of these businesses, and I think if they're given support, that would be incredible. Additionally, I believe collective organizing is essential for people of low and moderate income to attain economic justice. Throughout the pandemic, I was amazed by the mutual aid groups that really grew all over our city. I really think City Council should utilize relief money to support these community-led initiatives, because often these mutual aid groups prioritize BIPOC leadership and assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Alec.
Yeah, so racial justice is a constitutional right that has been denied by many people in this country. And we have to address racism and injustice in our community. And we have rightfully committed funds as a city to do that. So in REIB, which is Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, as well as other programs, almost $2 million, in fact. And with that being said, we do need assurances that what we're doing is raising up and building up marginalized members of our community. We need accountability from the city to ensure that is happening. And what I think is that REIB should not be, the Racial Equity Division should not be its own separate department. I think they should be integrated throughout the city. That allows multiple departments to see through an equity lens, instead of it being a separate department that's just vying for dollars from other departments. By integrating in that, you become a one-team approach. And it's almost like having somebody who can, audit your company. And instead of being an auditor, they're in there embedded in your company, helping you see where you need to go and make sure that you're using and doing the right things. And, speaking of inclusion and belonging, one thing I wanted to bring up is the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction Israel movement that was sponsored by one of my opponents in this race. It was a very large waste of time, and it was directly contradictory to the inclusion and belonging aspect that the city is striving for. It was highly divisive and harmful to the Jewish community, and it was even brought forward during the holy holidays, which was seen as very offensive. It was using resources against people instead of for and with people. And I know my family and myself personally felt harmed, and the people there felt intimidated at that meeting that night. And that was one of the catalysts that decided, in my factor for deciding to run for city council.
That's 2 minutes, Alec. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other callers at the moment?
There is.
Okay, go ahead.
But I haven't responded to the question yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
No problem. It happens to me all the time. But thank you again for having us here. I think thank you to the caller for that amazing question. And I think, you know, when we talk about racial equity, inclusion, and belonging, it will start by making sure the representation on the council and also on city departments are diverse, combating white supremacy because they are present in this community. And in some cases, they even learn for office or for leadership position. We have to root out all type of, you know, hate in this community. I created the racial equity, inclusion, and belonging for the city of Burlington. I brought that resolution forward, collaborated with racial justice organization. We created a position and we created a standing committee that will look into how do we dismantle, root out racism within city government. So right now, the racial equity, inclusion, and belonging for the city of Burlington has done its strategic planning. And I would want to be sure that we ensure that the recommendation of the strategic planning are implemented. Speaking up and taking action when you see inequities play out is definitely what people know me about. As I said, white supremacists are in this community. In some cases, they run for office or for leadership positions. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for neglecting to call on you, Ali. Kevin, can we go to the next question?
Yes. Okay, caller, you're on the air.
Thank you. My name is Blaine Martin. I have a question that I'd like to ask. And thanks again for running this forum as wonderful, wonderful service to the community. And my question is, in between the police, defunding the police in June 2020, and now there have been numerous critical votes on raising the police cap and hiring a new police chief. Can you please tell me how you would have voted on those issues, or for Ali, why you refused to raise the police cap twice and initially wanted to reopen the search rather than hire John Murad?
Okay, I'm going to take a moment to just thank you, caller. This is a question for all the candidates, and we'll start with Ali. And so we want to talk about the appointment of Chief Murad as well as the police cap. Wonderful. Go ahead, Ali.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, I think when we were debating the racial justice resolution to cut the police by 30%, I was the only city councilor who brought an amendment to it. Worked very hard Saturday and Sunday in making sure let's do this right. Not defending the police with knee-jerk reaction. As a Black man, I have accomplished that for the city of Burlington. Unfortunately, people did not listen and we kept on going. In one point, we received a proposal from the police department to raise the cap to 84, right? And then after the police commission to raise the cap to 82, right? And in between, we also put over $100,000 to study the police issue. Why should we bring resolution to raise the cap knowing that we already spent money? And because of the CNA report, the cap of the police is over 84 and 82. Because I listened and I put pragmatism into this by studying it, 79, and we always also kept the 8 officers at the Burlington police, at the Burlington airport. So basically I raised the cap over 84. In any way that you look at it, I did this issue on this issue. I was definitely the most consistent city councilor, and even John Murad himself, right, told me that I have been very consistent on the police issue. John Murad, I have always supported him before even like we put his name forward. I wrote extensively about why we need to give him the job, and reason why I proudly voted to have him as our police chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Olivia.
Thank you. So I think this is one of these issues that has really divided our community and has made it really hard. I want to commend Councillor Zhang because he did focus on what I think is extremely important, getting apolitical third bodies involved in something that is so divisive. I don't know what I would have done at the time. I agree with Councillor Jang that it was just a very emotional time for everyone. What I know looking back is that I would agree with the CNA, the third party report that was done, and that is what I would want to base all of my decisions on. After I heard the variety of opinions and experiences of constituents on Monday night, I am even more sure that this needs to be an apolitical process by a third party, not a decision made by mayor or city council. I really think we need to focus on using a search firm for police chief, because this is such a divisive issue in our community. And I really think the only way to unify over this is for everyone to understand that compromises do have to be made, and that working with a third party and making this as apolitical as possible is the best chance for progress. Thank you.
Okay. And Alec.
Yeah, so first off, I do want to thank Ali for making his vote for yes for the appointment of John Murad. So I think that was the right choice. John Murad has been doing a great job for the past 20 months. He's been essentially on a job interview, like he said, and the community supports him. The police commissioners in the North District support him. The people I've talked to support him, and his officers support him. That is a very huge point to listen to. Now, I wouldn't take you on a roller coaster, though, if I was going to vote like the way Ali did. He voted no to raise the cap. Then he voted that he wanted to reopen the search after saying in a post that it would be demoralizing to the police department. And that is demoralizing to the police department. And then he said to the news he would vote no for confirming John Murad. And even in the NPA meeting in the Ward 4-7, he said he had new information that was brought to him without sharing and no explanation that made him want to pause and reopen the search. And then he flipped back and voted yes. So I wouldn't take you down that roller coaster of a ride. I would be a consistent voice for public safety and for police. And how can we make progress without consistency and without stabilizing the department? We need to boost morale in the department. We need to give them the tools and the support in order to make change. And then we can work with John in order to affect that change that our community wants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other callers at this moment?
Yes, we have one more caller. Go ahead, caller.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra, and I'd like to ask each of them about the important function of the city council when it comes to budgeting. Could you each tell me a little bit about what your experience is with budgets, and either how you have contributed or would contribute to the city budgeting process? Thank you, and I'll take the answer offline.
Thank you. Let's start with Alec.
So as a manager of a manufacturing facility with a financial background, I work nights and weekends to obtain an MBA. I am acutely aware of how budgeting works. We have to make sure in our facility every day that our resources are allocated properly, whether it's through machinery or people being the most important resource. So we have to look at the financial data, we have to understand asset utilization, and we need to make sure that what we're doing and what we're spending money on is the right thing to spend money on at the right time. You look at needs versus wants, you look at your return on investment. So my unique engineering and financial background put me in a position, because I do that every single day for work. And that is something that I have been pretty successful at in my facility. And I just do it every single day for work. It's ingrained in my background and my current job. Thank you.
Thank you. Ali.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for that caller, for your amazing question. And as you all know, I am a member of Board of Finance of the City of Burlington for 2 years now, since 2018. And prior to that, I also been a manager of the Burlington School District Parent University, not only managing the grant, but also having the ability to apply to grants, receiving them, managing them well, and reporting accordingly. And I'm currently, as part of my work as Building Bright Futures regional manager for Chittenden, Franklin, Grand Isle, and also Central Vermont, I manage a grant from UVM called the Substance Use Disorder Grant, where I have partners, I allocate money for them to do activities and services. Managing grants as someone who's even came here with no English, with no experience about, let's say, writing grants and managing it, I've been very successful since 2007 when I came here to learn it all and to doing it very well. And I'm so happy to serve the city. Listen, there is also an aspect that I feel like we can do better. Reason why I run for mayor, participatory budgeting. We haven't got to that concept yet in the city of Burlington. This money that we pay to the city taxes, right? You have to have a say. Even young students at the high school could also help in that area. Every single department should go to a community, explain their grants before we put any ballot items to the voters. People are tired, affordability is hard, but voters, I'm asking you to reject these ballot items in order to allow the city to work harder in order for Burlington to stay affordable. Thank you.
Okay, and Olivia.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for your question. So I think this really shows a place where I am a very unique and different candidate in this race. I have private sector budgeting experience, just like Alec, and I have public sector budgeting experience. That may be surprising considering I look very young, but I worked in Vermont State House when I was in undergrad. I worked on the Agency of Transportation budget when I was the Energy and Climate Change intern. I managed a budget when I worked at Mansfield Hall, which was a program for students with learning disabilities and on the autism spectrum. I managed budgets for a bunch of different groups that we had there. I then attended Columbia University and got my Master of Public Administration, where I learned all about public sector budgeting. Currently, I work in international development, and we provide business development services to small businesses all over the world. So that includes training, recruiting staff, coming up with creative ways to pivot, also budgeting and trying to figure out finance. So I have both the private sector and the public sector experience when it comes to budgeting. And I think that gives me a really unique perspective when it comes to analyzing it from what do we need and what is necessary in public budgeting, as well as what can we partner with? How can we partner with private sector? How can we have public-private partnerships to really lessen the tax burden on residents? I really believe I have a creative and unique perspective when it comes to budgeting, and I'm really excited to be on City Council and work on that. Thank you.
Okay. We don't have any additional callers at the moment, but folks can call in at 802-862-3966 to ask questions of the candidates. We're going to stay on the budget for just a minute. I'm going to ask each of you to talk about how you might respond to the ballot item requesting a raise to the city tax rate of 4%. Olivia, would you start, please?
Sure. I think it's no surprise to anyone that many in our community are hurting from the recent reappraisal, from the pandemic. In fact, homeowners took a larger hit than commercial property owners due to the pandemic home buying boom. I agree with the choice to have residents vote on this increase on town hall meeting day. I know that Ward 7 residents voted no when a similar question was asked on the ballot in December. I'm eager to see whether we have a similar result in March. I think it's extremely important, like Ali said, to have participative budgeting, and I really look forward to seeing what the residents of Ward 7 believe. Thank you.
Okay. Ali.
Thank you. Yes, and Burlington has become just unaffordable. We have lost countless amount of families moving out of the city, right? And it's unfortunate. I listen to my constituents very well. Ward 7 did not give the December capital ballot even 50% of the votes. I listened. The biggest issue that people mostly care about is affordability, then public safety, then racial justice, then climate change. I do not support tax increases in the heel of a reappraisal during a pandemic. I do not support it to go on the ballot. I did not. And I did not also support, I support aspect of the capital bound. There are elements of it that I support, such as the matching grant, such as the police and fire communication system, as well as the fire truck. The amount of over 20 million does not make sense, knowing that we have over $2 billion coming to the state, right, for infrastructure work. We also have an unassigned fund balance that's about over nearly $7 million. We also have $15 million from ARPA, right? I think these taxpayers, they definitely need a break. And reason why I'm asking those who are listening to make sure that the city of Burlington will do a hard work providing the basic services without raising the raising the taxes. Also, most importantly, the biggest item of our lifetime is coming down soon, which is the high school. We don't know, 200, 300 millions, we don't know. So city and state and the school district should need to come together and build this high school. Reason why vote no on all of these ballot items. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alec.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate hearing their points of view on that. I would vote no on raising that. And the reason I say that is, as a process engineer, I'm wired to try to look for efficiency before raising taxes. So I would look at the existing budget and I would try to find efficiencies that we can gain before raising the tax. People are already stinging from the reappraisal. And as it's been said, we're in the middle of the pandemic and people have been affected by COVID. We do have cash reserves. We do have some of the ARPA money, but we really need to understand what the cost of, say, the school will be for the taxpayers. And with that, you need to understand what the city can do in order to be more efficient before going out and asking for money to fund these programs, which some of them, like Ali said, are very good. But we really need to look at our efficiency first. And are we spending the money on the right things? Are they needs versus wants? Can they be deferred a little bit or not if it's matching dollars versus other things? But what are we currently doing and where can we make gains before trying to burden the taxpayers in the ward any further? Because if you raise the tax, it's going to make Burlington more unaffordable. And we're losing the middle class in Burlington because of that. And we need to recognize that. And we need to fix that. So I would first look at efficiency and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to change topics a little bit. We're going to talk about housing. What needs to be done to address housing concerns in the city? What are the biggest issues with housing? Is it affordability, safety, access? What are your thoughts? Alec, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. Housing shouldn't be affordable for just those with large sums of cash. It should be affordable and accessible to all. And like I just said, we're losing the middle class in Burlington, and we need to be cognizant of that. We need to build more affordable housing. We need to allow zoning that would allow people to expand their current homes like my family did. We added a bedroom onto our 2-bedroom modest home to grow our family, or add accessory dwelling units where it makes sense. I've spoken to people who would like to do that, and the zoning may not allow that at this time. Places like Cambrian Rise will increase the amount of housing, and we have inclusionary zoning policies already in place that will help that. So the ultra low vacancy rate right now really does contribute to that crisis. So what can we do with our current housing stock, and where can we expand with new construction where it makes sense in the city in order to help that housing crisis that we're currently in? Thank you.
Thank you. Ali.
Thank you. I think let's also recognize that, we are a college town. And I think the first aspect is to work in collaboration with UVM in order to provide more housing for their students. And I think UVM is starting now to understand that this community needs that. And they have a proposal that will allow at least 400 new apartments be built around the Trinity campus. Okay. So I think also in terms of housing, the mayor is trying, the city council, everybody is trying. I think the housing summit was first of its kind. I welcomed it and I appreciate it, and I want to see more. Also, let's not only think about housing from the perspective of those who can afford to pay, but also from the perspective of those who are houseless. I invite you all in details to please go to my website, alijangvt.com, and look under priorities. I have so many ideas that I outlined since I was running for mayor. I think also another element is, yes, what Alex said, some zoning changes is important, as well as density, especially in downtown. Burlington should not stay as a boutique city. We need to stay modern, and we need to also make sure that people who have homes are allowed to add more additional dwelling units. And I think the city of Burlington is already implementing those type of changes. So visit my website for more details, and looking forward to connect with you about this more. Thank you.
Okay, Olivia.
Housing is unaffordable for both renters and homeowners in Burlington. That's something we all agree on. UVM does not provide enough housing for students. The rental process is frustrating and inaccessible. As a renter who has a positive relationship with her landlord, and the only renter running for Ward 7, I think I am the right person to tackle the increasingly polarizing divide between tenants and landlords in Burlington. I recognize and fully support local landlords in Burlington. Many of them care deeply about their homes, and they really want their tenants to stay in Burlington, but they're anxious about the increase in prices. My landlord is that, my previous landlords are that. As city councilor, I would want to work to incentivize renting to long-term tenants. That could be through creating tax credits for landlords who house long-term tenants. I would want to discourage renting to university students, which would really push UVM to have to provide more housing. But I also want to increase long-term residency by saving landlords money that they can use to reinvest in their properties. Another thing that I think is really important is that I want to streamline the rental application process in Burlington. As a member of the housing board, I've seen a lot of different illegal clauses on rental applications and on leases, and I've seen issues with people who don't have English as their first language. If we streamline the process and made it a website that anyone could use, it's going to be easier to apply for homes, easier to find tenants, easier to translate applications to any language, and really make it a more inclusive place for renters and for landlords. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any callers at this time?
No callers.
Okay, we have a few more minutes. If you want to call in and ask a question of the candidates, you can call 802-862-3966. I'm going to ask you now about climate change. What role does municipal government, and specifically Burlington, play in the mitigation of climate change? Can you be specific about initiatives that you would encourage through your role on City Council? Let's start with Ali.
Thank you. Yes, climate change is real, and I think it's a global issue, but local response matter. And I am completely in agreement with the current mayor about all of our efforts in trying to mitigate transportation, to not only stay around using cars. I think these bike lanes is one response. I think also making sure that people have intensives in order to access, thermostat for their homes, and encourage people to put, let's say, sunroofs. I think all of those are elements that are very specific that the city can do. But actually, also, I do not support the fact that people need to be taxed in order for us as a municipality to respond to climate change. I think there are proposals that might be coming in the future if it passes from the state. I think, let's continue to change our lifestyle as a first start, and also let's tap into the incentives that the city is currently providing through the Burlington Electric Department. Electric cars and many other amenities such as electric bikes and stuff. I will also want to tackle what we call, what can you do from the standpoint of your home? And if re-elected, those are items that I want to concentrate it and also work in collaboration with the Burlington Parks and Recreation to make sure that people can have more bees, people can respond to climate change from their backyards. Thank you.
Okay. Olivia.
I think local government has so many roles to play in mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Like Ali mentioned, I think Burlington has had a lot of success when it comes to energy efficiency, composting, green energy, but there are a lot more things we could do. Something I am extremely passionate about, and I really think Burlington could do, is edible landscapes in parks. Now, this sounds kind of weird, but actually after the First and Second World Wars, there was this idea of community victory gardens where parks were turned over to food production to help with war effort. They are really like an incredible community building thing that also allows you to lessen carbon footprint, transforms outdoor spaces, and also protects the health of soil, which is affected by erosion, pollution, and loss of organic matter. So a public food landscape would be parts of the park that would have community vegetable gardens, maybe edible forests of fruits and nut trees. There could be food producing green roofs. I think we can utilize the space that we already have and have food forests. Really, they're all over, and they're really, I think one of the biggest successes I've seen recently is that Atlanta has planted fruit and nut trees on 7 acres of their city, and the bounty of which, the fruit and the nuts, are available free to all local residents. So it's really to make sure that people have access to fresh food. It's utilizing our public spaces while also helping the health of our soil and getting everyone outside and really utilizing these spaces. And I think that's a really great way and creative to address climate change in our city. Thank you.
Okay. And Alec.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. Thank you very much. Yeah, so with regards to climate change, my family and I don't just talk the talk. We walk the talk or walk the walk, depending on the statement you want to make. When we purchased our home, the first thing we did was we installed solar on our roof. And I went up in the middle of the summer and insulated and air sealed my attic, and then switched out everything to LED lights and Energy Star efficient ventilation. And you utilize the programs that were available through the city. And that's something that I think we should expand on. We need to make sure that it's equitable for everybody in the city and in the community as well. But we need to look at those low-hanging fruit programs, those types of weatherization programs from a municipal standpoint and from a homeowner standpoint. Allowing people to be able to do the work on their own would be a good way, because I know people who are contractors who can do the work, but they might not be on that approved list. And they want to be able to do that, but they might not be able to afford weatherization. At the same token, at my company, we've done a lot of these environmental type programs. We switched all of our high bay lights over to LEDs. We also participate in a solar off-taking program. We've insulated our machines that give off heat in order to reduce the electricity consumption, and we've reduced our water consumption as well. So I look at this not just from a personal standpoint in my own life and in my family's life, but also what can we do in industry? And I would encourage people who work in industry, whether it's commercial or industrial, to have these types of programs. And I think the municipal government can play a role in that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you all very much for answering these questions and the questions that came from the public. We're coming to the end of our time together, so I would like to ask each of you to provide a 30-second closing statement. And we're going to start with Alec.
As I'm taking a sip of water.
Sorry about that.
No problem. That's me. So yeah, so I believe we need more pragmatic voices on the city council. I'm not ideological. I'm not looking to advance an agenda. I want to bring balance to the council. We need to focus on Burlington problems, not larger issues that are outside the influence of the city council. I have no higher political aspirations. I don't want to be mayor. I don't want to run for state legislature. I'm just a process engineer, resident, father, and husband who wants to help solve problems in the city and in the community. And I think I'm uniquely poised with my experience to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Olivia.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I believe the opinions and desires of Ward 7 residents and ultimately improving our community is more important than party politics. So if you want someone who's committed to public service, has experience in both the private and public sector, who has education in climate change and policy, if you want edible gardens and more support for BIPOC and women-owned businesses, please vote for me, Olivia Taylor, for Ward 7 City Councilor on March 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ali.
Thank you. So my story as a new American who came here 14 years ago with no English, someone who have lived experiences, someone who empower people and inspire people to do good work and to serve their communities. I am a dedicated and passionate public servant, and I'm a city councilor, an independent, pragmatic councilor. My track record can speak to itself. I am the city council that created the racial equity, inclusion, belonging, the city council who have written several resolutions seeking to make Burlington an inclusive, safe, and vibrant as possible. A city council who reaches across the aisle, a city council who collaborate and demonstrate the quality of qualification even before becoming an elected official. Vote Ali.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for your time this evening. We have Ali Jang, Alex Stith, and Olivia Taylor for Ward 7 City Council. Thank you for tuning in to Town Meeting Television's ongoing coverage of local community candidates, budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and more forums at www.ch17.tv. Don't forget to vote on or before the first Tuesday in March, Town Meeting Day, March 1st, 2022. Early voting by mail is available by contacting your town clerk's office. Polls will also be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you for watching.